The best way to change policy is to change the story. And that means finally showing people Black little kids in cities actually ride dirt bikes too. And we can't keep showing them they only want as criminals. I'm not afraid to be the first, but I can't be the last.
No, sir.
I'm not afraid to speak my truth and our community's truth. It's been a natural storytelling progression. And I also make sure like our young people tell that story. When people want to interview me, they have to interview them. I'm Brittany Young. I'm the founder and CEO of B-360. And this is Where Are You Now with Black Girl Ventures.
Brittany Young, okay, founder, CEO, creator of B-360. Do you still call it B-360 Baltimore, or no, you just B-360?
It was always B-360, but okay. Baltimore is our first stop. So yeah, it's B-360 Baltimore because that's where we are. But you know, one day maybe like B-360 Chicago.
Oh, yeah. I can see that.
Yeah.
That's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm so glad to talk to you because number one, your trajectory has just been, I remember, okay, coming into the pitch competition, talking a mile a minute. Yes. And I'm like, Brittany, slow down.
Yeah.
Now you speaking on stages, you on panels, you killing it. I'm like, yes. So, okay, take us back.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why did you even, like, where did the idea, wait, what was you doing before B-360?
It's because you know this answer. So I had 4 jobs, basically. I'm now a retired chemical engineer. So I used to work in asset management. So I worked anywhere from like McCormick to APL to NASA. I've done it all. I started working when I was 17. I also was a teacher. So I taught K-8 technology every day. I don't know how I did that, but I loved it. And then I also taught physics at a community college. And I had just started B-360 at one time.
So I'm just saying, giving up for a Black woman, material scientist, a chemical engineer, which one? Was it?
Chemical
engineer.
Yep.
As a fellow engineer, I'm like, yes, love to see that. And the idea that, because it's so funny, you know, when you tell me what you're doing, I'm like, oh my God, I used to be a part of this show called Bike Life. So B-360 essentially is taking children, turning them into engineers working on dirt bikes, which is a big problem. So the dirt bike, for those who don't know, the idea of like riding dirt bikes on the street is illegal.
Owning in Baltimore is a misdemeanor. So
it's like, a misdemeanor.
Yeah, you can just go to jail for just having one, which is crazy. Yeah,
just to have a dirt bike.
Just have one in Baltimore. So that's what we're trying to prevent. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, right. Because you know, similar to like other wars on a certain group, when you wanted to stop, you target the item, and so that targets the people. Yeah, so in Baltimore, possession of a dirt bike is a misdemeanor.
I wonder, but why though? Like, what is it about the dirt bike? Because like dirt bikes, 4-wheelers, you know, they're the inner city youth, they get hold of them and they ride them on the street. And then of course the cities say, oh, that's a hazard, they shouldn't be doing that, yada, yada. And you know, there's been some deaths, like, I mean, like police chasing people dying from them. And then I think around the time that like DMX and that whole like Rough Rider crew came out, it really pulled out. It was already a bike life happening behind the scenes, but it pulled this out of the shadows where it was like, oh shoot, people ride 4-wheelers, people doing wheelies on motorcycles, they doing those type of tricks and stuff. But like, you could be doing anything. You could have built any kind of business. So what was the like, ooh, I'm gonna focus on dirt bikes?
So just growing up, I'm born and raised, never leaving Baltimore, right? So it's that part. Growing up, dirt bikes is like our sport. People want to be like Michael Jordan. We want to be like the big dirt bike riders. Not me, because I'm not falling. But, you know, when I thought about, too, my experience as like a Black woman in STEM, it was always people telling me I wasn't good enough, right? People, like you said, I used to talk really fast. I used to fight a lot in elementary school. But it's because I was bored. Nobody could see. I was also the same 5-year-old first grader who had a chemistry set in my basement that was also working all these experiments. So school was just boring to me. So then when I also started like teaching and I worked in engineering, I was confused for the secretary for the first 2 weeks just because they had never hired a Black woman or a woman period in my department. Right. So I thought about not only how do we make STEM cool, but how do we keep showing Black kids, especially in cities, especially in my city, that we smart is, hey, you know when you pop a wheelie on a dirt bike, that's a physics equation. And like I'm also very passionate because my little brother went to jail for nonviolent offenses, for making sure people don't go to jail, period, especially Black people for nonviolent offenses. Right. So it's how can we tackle both sides of these problems as a solution? And then in the beginning, it was payback. So I wanted to pay back a system that wronged me, wronged my family, wronged other Black people in our country. Now I do it because I love it. But initially it was coming out of Freddie Gray uprising, being mad that our city made a dirt bike police task force, being mad that we had this crazy law in the books that nobody cared about, right? And being mad that Black kids never saw themselves in either motorsports or in STEM. And that was a problem for me.
When you talk about being a chemist, or being a chemical engineer, and being in places where people are like, are you the secretary? So we talking like right in front of me, a real life, like hidden figure.
I never even knew about them until watching movies. So yes, yeah. I never heard of Captain Johnson going up, right? And that's what I'm saying, that's a problem.
Yeah.
I never heard of a lot of like Sadie T.M. Alexander, right? I never heard of Alexa Kennedy, right? And that's what I'm saying is like, why? Right? Yeah. I heard about Mae Jemison, but that was finally in 5th grade. I never got my first Black teacher, so I was in 3rd grade. She was the first Black teacher, the first person ever asked me what I like to do, why do I do it, and then create a science club for me. And that's what I got to be for my students eventually. But that's what I'm saying, that's a constant problem. Or we never hear about the dirt bike riders or people from our cities and our communities and how they're not criminals, but how they're assets into making it better. And that's what I wanted to see change, and I get to do that through B-360. So yeah, I could have been anywhere making money, because it's not easy to make money, but it was boring, right? It was old. I'd already done it. And I'm still an engineer. Just I get to think about issues. I get to solve them, but from a different lens. And that doesn't mean I have to be in the lab or at a desk or in corporate America. Now I get to solve issues head first and make systemic change.
100%. And I tell people, like, I'm such a good entrepreneur because I'm an engineer.
Yes.
Because like, for me, it's zeros and ones. This whole thing is zero. Somebody's freaking out. I'm like, okay, well, just
backwards.
Right.
Yeah.
Run it backward. Put this part with this part.
Combine it.
What you think you seen ain't what you really ain't what's really happening. Like,
it's just problem solving.
It is. Yeah. It is. And it's at a piece and a level that means seeing beyond what's happening right in front of you.
Mm-hmm. And thinking 10 times from right now. So like for B-360, I knew, like stuff we're doing now, I already knew we were going to do it. Right? It wasn't, I maybe not have known how, but I was like, we're going to put us in a position that we can accomplish these things. I wanted to think about our end goal, and I really just worked backwards, right? To change policy, I'm like, we're going to have to get people on our side. The best way to change policy is to change the story. And that means finally showing people Black little kids in cities actually ride dirt bikes too. And we can't keep showing them they only want as criminals. Mm-hmm. And showing them also, hey, that rider that you see in the street, now he's in your classroom teaching you. He teaches you how to fix the bike, but we also taught him about the physics, the mechanics, and he already knew these things. And that's the most important part. He was already smart. He was already brilliant. He just needed somebody to listen to him too.
So, okay. So here we are. You are coming off of being a chemical engineer in professional life. And you're like, you go through some things. Like you said, your brother got locked up. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I'm going to do this thing because F the establishment. You're not going to treat these people this way, right? Yeah. Which I think that definitely we sharing that. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, what can I do? I can do something. Yeah. Right? Like, mm-hmm. And at the time, I was thinking it was something small, mm-hmm. right? Like, I could just do this one thing. Mm-hmm. I can't solve all of it. But if I could do this one thing. So dollars coming in the door though. Like, how did you get the capital to start your, because what was your first program, or what was your very first stop for B360?
So before B360, I was already doing, I created a Lego League competition in Baltimore, right? So I had a lot of education acumen, how to start stuff. So again, being an engineer naturally, so I already came with a strong network from STEM. With B360, it was not money in the door. At first, it was none, actually. It was none whatsoever. I just started paying myself last year. And I have to say it and laugh.
Well, let me stop and give it up for that.
Thank you.
Ma'am. Okay. I'm so happy to hear that you pay yourself. Okay, good.
Right, because finally,
Right.
Finally, we can afford to. But the first stop, I was in Baltimore Course Elevation Awards, right? So coming out of the Freddie Gray Uprising, initially it was for just West Baltimore. It's novel approaches to how can we move West Baltimore forward. Nobody really, I wouldn't say nobody. People voted for B-360, but there were, of course, like 1.5 million naysayers, right? The philanthropy world has never thought about Black people who they condemn for riding dirt bikes being STEM professionals and vice versa. So we started with a $10,000 planning grant, and that was the only grant that we received that was not a fellowship until 2021.
Wow.
Yeah, that's me. It was not dollars knocking. It wasn't rolling. It was me having my own savings from working engineering. Me still until 2018 working engineering. So putting my own money, my own time into it. And then I was in Hopkins Social Innovation Lab, which is like an incubator. So again, not money, but it really taught me, again, like a logic model. It was like an MBA program on steroids. And then in 2017, I also won my first pitch competition. The very first one. And the only one I ever won until that time.
What?
And it was, by some lady named formerly Shelly, but Omi Bell. Before that, like I said, it was 1.5 million no's. Y'all were the first yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember you just spit fire. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like,
I was tired.
I'm like, wait.
Yeah,
this is amazing. This is amazing. Oh, we want them to catch it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how did it feel getting a yes after getting all those no's?
Needed. Right. It was so Elevation Awards again was like, that was a great yes. It was different. It was $10,000. I never, seen a lump sum. That was cool. Social Innovation Lab 2, I was there, one of that first community members. So before me, only you had to be a part of the Hopkins network. And then, but Black Girl Ventures, what was different was it was by a Black woman, for Black women, and the audience voted, right? And it was a style, right? Like, I wasn't nervous for it. I was like, you want me to do what? I gotta present in front of these people. And I used to talk really fast because I was used to people not listening to me. That was my whole life. Or when I would get in trouble, I would have to hurry up and say a whole bunch of stuff, And I never use my words. I use my fists, right? So talking is a new part of me that I'm proud of. But it was really like, you probably remember the conversation you had with me because you had it with all of us, you could already see who I was becoming, who I wanted to be. But it was the fact that you took time to like, hey, Brittany, you got this, right? I'm like, this lady's really telling me I got this. Does she know I'm scared as hell, right? And it was before the actual competition, right? So it was the fact that with all the stuff that you had going on, organizing this, you also made time to just do like some coaching, right? To spend 20 minutes on the phone with me, listen to me, hear my deck, hear my ideas, and like to breathe life into me. And that was my first time a Black woman, especially an entrepreneur, did it, and I could see myself in you. I was like, maybe I can do this, but I'm still nervous as hell. And I didn't care about winning that day because again, like it was like the feeling, like I was charged from just the audience to it being in Baltimore to you even coming to Baltimore, and then also like meeting all the other contestants. So it felt very familiar, very much like a sisterhood. To win, I was like, that's pretty cool, but it was really my mind wasn't even thinking about that. It was at that time, like I said, so many no's. The fact that it was a Black woman that believed in another Black woman, of course, you sowed a seed like capital, but you also sowed a seed in me as Brittany Young, the person. And people didn't do that at that time.
I 100% believe in you. I still believe in you. You know what I mean? But like, it wasn't even a question. Now I meet some people that I'm like, I believe they're gonna be great at something. Maybe not this business. But they're gonna be great at something. Yeah. It wasn't that for me. I heard the idea and I'm like, what is this genius? Like, of course. One, I also had the relationship to the bike life. And so I knew firsthand what you were talking about. And I'm like, when people get this is gonna be something. So, we go into a pandemic, right? Did you start hosting because I know you were still doing some of the courses and things with the students. Did you move into virtual? How did you even get through that quarantine period?
Thank you for that question. So going into 2020, we had already worked with about 6,000 young people by that time, right? So we started with a 30 student pilot in 2017. I knew B-360 was that girl, but I didn't know it was going to be like, woo, y'all don't want to get away from us. You know, like y'all are still coming back. Like I knew it was going to be big, but I didn't even grasp how big it was. 2020 came. The good thing was I had worked on a lot of sales. Like I said, we didn't get real grants until 2021. So between sales and fellowships, we were probably like at like almost $1 million in revenue. So when 2020 came, I was able to pay our staff, but I didn't start doing programming until it was safe, right? Because that was my big thing of we can't be in person. That's not an option. I don't want to risk myself, my family. My other little brother lives with Down syndrome, so also having to think about him, and then thinking about other people. So we did was pivot to more being hands on the ground. So COVID tests, right? Helping people get food stamps, helping people get unemployment. And then by October 2020, this movie was filming and they wanted to make sure that actual dirt bike riders were represented. So then we were able to get back software into programming by having our young people participate. By 2021, we went full steam into virtual learning, but 2020 starting in March was all about just making sure people were okay, right? The bikes weren't the focus. You know, it was mass. Too many people was dying to just worry about, again, STEM is important. We need us, but we also right now need to think about, I don't want you or your grandmother to starve or your grandmother to pass. So how can we literally deploy resources and give out money, give out micro grants to people, individuals, and then help sustain people. And by 2021, it was a little better. So we started, we made kits. So our programming was in Baltimore City, Baltimore County, a little bit of DC. So we would ship the kits to all of our students. And then virtual programming on Zoom, right? So that meant hotspots. A lot of people didn't have Wi-Fi. Chromebooks, a lot of people didn't have like proper technology. And then making sure we had different class times. So no matter if you wanted to come early, middle, or afternoon, we had something for you. And then having our teachers be able to like directly connect with our students. And we started offering tutoring because a lot of our students had virtual learning for school, but were failing. So it was a mix of starting boots on the ground, making sure people were fine. We even did some advocacy for like presidential campaigns to make sure people got out to vote, and then getting back into direct programming, but really just making sure people had vital resources to even have programming too.
Were you able to bring streams of revenue in from all of that sort of community work? Because you were doing a lot of community development in that sense, economic development, community development, access to digital resources.
No.
Where you weren't able to?
Nope.
Oh my God.
Nobody cared about that stuff. We spent our money, right? So we went from almost $1 million in revenue to zero, right? Because we were only direct service, right? You'll say our only grant was that $10,000 in 2017. And then once we didn't have any contracts 2020, zero revenue coming in, right? But that's when I learned we were actually sustainable because I was still able, again, to feed myself, my family, our contractors, and to still do programming and not really have to, hey, we need to find this quick grant, right? It was, we actually can expense money. At the end of 2020, you know, this is now what I call a great awakening. In my TED Talk, I talk about this too, you know, the black squares and all that good stuff. People cared about digital equity. People cared about DEI initiatives, which are now gone. And so one of our first grants was Microsoft. So in 2020, going to 2021, we won $300,000 from Microsoft, which was the beginning of us getting awarded grants that weren't fellowships, right? So that was a shift. But again, that was for 2021. 2020 had already happened. Yeah, so we didn't get any money, any support at all in just about 2020. Yeah.
Have you started back up full direct services now?
Yeah, so we never stopped direct services.
Okay.
It just COVID, we had to pivot what those services looks like. Yep.
Yeah.
So we still direct services, which is still our bread and butter, grants, and now federal funding. And then eventually I want to get into manufacturing our own products and STEM kits. So we can also think very, very long term, right? Philanthropy is not the end all be all, which I always tell people, and I'm glad we started the opposite way. And then also franchising our model so we can have these dirt bike spaces all around the country.
100%. Because I think the work you've done in Baltimore is tremendous, and it needs to be in DC.
Yes.
It needs to be in Miami. It needs to be, it's like these pockets around the country where bike life is really, really popular.
Yeah. and taking a hit in the wrong way, right? So we want to get in front of, we don't want other cities to be like ours where possession is a misdemeanor, right? Or until 2021, we had a dirt bike police task force. So think of a SWAT team unit, right? We don't want other cities to do the opposite. So now our work is focusing on like diversion, of course, community-led diversion, and then having those tough conversations with government of get this right. Before, like you said, we don't want to see more deaths, especially for stuff that's preventable. And when we look at motocross, when we look at even basketball, we look at all these other arenas for sports, it's no different. You make a space people want it and you grow it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's interesting because why hasn't anybody thought of building some kind of league? I mean, these kids are doing, I mean, and we're saying kids, but like, honestly, we're talking up to maybe 20. So
to 30s, 40s, 50s. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It's up, right? The oldest rider we work with so far is mid 50s. Yeah. It's generational. But like to your point, why? 'Cause people didn't want it.
Not the people riding, but the powers that be.
Yeah. So like the motorsports industry is a $32 billion industry. There's one Black professional dirt bike rider. The end. No Black women at all yet. Right? The industry has never thought about how do you fit this big head with these braids into a helmet. There are no helmets that fit my head type. Right? Have never thought about women who have breasts, who have butt, and anything else. And so that's a big part of the challenge too, is the industry was not made or designed with Black people. In 2021, Bessie Stringfield, if you watched Lovecraft Country, she was a woman riding next to Hippolyta. So she had like a motorcycle, a jacket. She was the first Black woman in the Motorcycle Hall of Fame. I'm the first Black person, period, to win the award that's named after her when it's been around for 25 years.
Wow.
Right, which is dumb.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
But I still like that's what I'm saying. It's crazy that an award for a Black woman has never been awarded to a Black person ever until 2021.
Now, I've watched you, like I said, soar at this point. So,
Working on it. Yeah.
So, I mean, like, TED, Summit, like I'm like, who does she know? I haven't even been to TED. I'm trying to, I'm out here working by myself. I'm trying to get to TED. Like, how have you navigated behind the scenes? Because philanthropy is sticky. It is, old and traditional in some senses. And it's not, it woke up for a minute and I feel like it just like, it did the Homer Simpson. Like, now, people are going back into the shadows. I think there are people who still want to help, but they're not as vocal because being vocal about it is not as okay. Yeah. But how have you navigated, how do you get into, being a TED fellow? Or how do you get into finding out about Summit? Or how do you, how have you gotten into these private spaces that are actually fairly exclusive?
Yeah, and it's the I wouldn't say I'm naive. It's the true humbleness in me. So I never even thought about that. Like I never thought about, Summit is exclusive till I got there and I said, oh, this needs to change. You know what I mean? Like I never, and so I experienced it. And I think first just being unwavering and I'm not changing myself. Right. So of course I slowed down in my speaking because I realized people needed to hear what I was saying.
You deserve to be heard.
Thank you. But I didn't change, like, I don't code switch, right? That's my favorite thing about myself, too. I still cannot say Baltimore. It hurts my teeth just to say it that way.
Can't say Baltimore.
Yeah, right.
It's Baltimore.
Exactly. So I think just not being afraid to be told no and to tell people no. So especially in philanthropy, there are foundations who want to hear your KPIs, your metrics in their version, and we wasn't doing that. Right. And I meant if we didn't get funded, that's okay. I'm gonna go make my money. My first big fellowship was Echo and Green. So I won the first Black woman from Baltimore to be an Echo and Green fellow. And that's pretty crazy. And how I learned about that was through Baltimore Core, right? And then applying, right? That the character limit alone is discouraging, right? So 750 characters explain all of B-360. So this went back to my technical writing, right? Putting on that hat. So Echo and Green was the first fellowship and their network is expansive, right? So Cheryl Dorsey, kudos to her too, is also a Black woman who has led the charge in not being afraid to, I would say, take that hit as a Black woman to usher in more Black people, period. So I would say Echo and Green also helped. Like they would just send me stuff to apply to. TED, I still don't know how I became TED fellow. Other than like, honestly, I'm good at talking about what we do and making sure people understand. And if you don't understand, it's not for you. I'm not afraid of that. So even my experience with TED, my TED talk almost maybe kind of sort of got edited, and I told him I wasn't doing it if it gets edited. So it's also not being afraid to, I wrote what I wrote and it's going to be what I said. Like Summit, that was that first year thinking about fellows, right? Because who can afford $20,000 to go to a 2-day conference? So again, it was a good experience to go. But when I got there were maybe 5 Black women and maybe 10 Black people, period, in the entire conference. And so we formed a convening to get more people into it, but to also help them change, and they've been growing. And I think that's just been my style. Like, I'm not afraid to be the first, but I can't be the last.
That's right.
Yeah, and I'm not afraid to speak my truth and our community's truth. And I think it's been a natural storytelling progression. And I also make sure, like, our young people tell that story. When people want to interview me, they have to interview them. And I think, it's been organic. We've never paid to be on Steve Harvey TV or to be on, didn't even know Kelly Clarkson had a show. Right? And I think our first big break was making the front page of the Baltimore Sun, because we also had a Black woman reporter who got it. So I think it's just been natural that people gravitate towards us because it's an authentic story. It's not made up. I don't lie about it. I don't say, yes, we have had people that rode in the streets. It's real. Right now, they don't. Or if they choose to go back, that has nothing to do with us, right? It's an opportunity. Or yes, the same people that have went to jail are in our programming. That's what it's supposed to be. So I think it's just being that people gravitate towards authenticity, and I've chosen to stay that way.
And I think that, one of the things that people should not ever take for granted, because you might have been talking fast or fighting people, you are always extremally intelligent.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? Like, and you know what I mean? It's like, I can't even see how anybody would discount that. It's like, what? Like, what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, I love the flourishing. I mean, we had the opportunity to do the Entrepreneurship as a Boxing Match film, and the crew, I said the crew to 3 of our houses. So Takia, you, and I, and they did like background. And it wasn't until I watched the footage as we were doing the editing that I even was able to fathom what you mean when you say, oh yeah, and I have a brother that I take care of that's Down syndrome. Like you say that so like, oh yeah, by the way, and it's like, no, you really are caring for your family.
Yes. The oldest girl syndrome. Yes.
Yeah. You really have taken your family, put them on your back. You like rocking through all the other things around, like creating family out of all the community members you're running into, but like also being like taking care of your family. Your sister, you have 2 brothers, right?
2 brothers and a sister. Yep.
Like, how are you? Like, how do you even manage a day where, like you're caring for all these community members, where you also have caring for your brother who has Down syndrome, and like, did he always stay with you or your mom?
Yeah. So COVID is what made it crazy. So when I was 18, so my siblings was 11, 12, and 16. Our mother died, so my second week of college. Yeah, so like imagine we talk to somebody on Thursday, they die on Friday. And when
was she sick, or did y'all know?
No, and so what I learned from that experience was she literally didn't take care of herself. Right. So she had probably like undiagnosed lupus and had like a brain aneurysm. And at that time I think it was a heart attack. We still to this day never know. That's what made it was just died at 47, and she never made time for herself. So what I learned through that experience was what you just said, right? Being a strong Black woman is not a badge of honor. Right. Like, it is a burden and a pain that people put on us, and then it makes us be a robot, and people forget we're humans and that we also age. And of course, Black don't crack, but on the inside it's dying. Yeah, dying. So for me, when 2020 came, so it was March 13th, my brother would be with us anyway, but his agency, he would be with us on weekends. His agency literally just never came back, right? I mean,
they didn't come back from COVID.
Yeah, they stole his money, from Medicaid,
What?
but they did not actually take care of him.
So he was actually staying at a facility.
Yeah, he was staying at like a residence.
Mm.
Yeah, so he would be with me and my sister on the weekends, or like sometimes on the weekday. We still cook for him, make sure stuff is good. But yeah, they just did nothing. And that's, it's one. So we talk about Black women in STEM, but Black disability rights, terrible, right?
Mm.
It's a constant thing with Black people that people leave us by the wayside. And he's nonverbal. So yeah, he's just lived with me since then. And that's when I said I knew I was sustainable, because I didn't make money, but I was able to maintain myself, him, B-360, and it felt good. I also, for the first time in 10 years or whatever, was able to slow down, right? Before COVID, I mean, I'm not saying COVID was good for a lot of stuff, but before COVID, I was flight here, this place, like working on contracts. This was my first time I got to cook almost every day. I got to take hikes. I got to not be on, we didn't even use Zoom before COVID, but not be online, not have to email people until I got carpal tunnel, not have to just keep thinking about what's next. It was like, we can rest, and that's okay. And that was different. But like a day for me would look like, what is today? Like, what's today, Wednesday? Oh yeah, so working, now he has AIDS, so do that process of losing his agency. I learned how to advocate for something new, which was for people that have disabilities, right? So I learned about self-directed services, where you can literally cut out the agencies, right? So as a sister, I get to manage his budget with him. I get to help him hire people, right? So this could look like family members. So my sister gets paid to work for him, right? It could look like, we screen the people. And so where I'm headed as Brittany Young, when I get some time, is wanting more Black families to know this option, right? Instead of you struggling to maintain yourself, your household, and your person, your loved one, you can actually pay yourself, cut out the BS agency, and then make sure they have proper care. And that's a whole new game changer, right? So all of 2020 was a mix of rest, being mad at, again, disability rights services, connecting with people in that space I never knew about or heard, like Brooke Lehrman, and learning this new system, this new game to also break it up. And so by going into 2021, we now are in self-directed. We were able to hire people, but all of 2020, it was just me and my brother the entire time. Yep. And when we started summer camp in 2020, we did some stuff in 2020. I forgot about that. We had like a soft summer camp outside. He was there with me every day. Yeah. So every weekend. Yeah. So he loved the bikes too. He likes the sound of them. He would get on the side by side. So like riding with people. Yeah. So everything I did in 2020 that people saw, from like and pizza to filming to my TED Talk, my brother was right there next to me. Yeah, which is crazy. And for Kelly Clarkson, he actually busted the door. It was funny. Yeah, so I have like that B-roll too. But yeah, everything I've done, he's been right there. Just people never knew.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you call me fairy godmother.
Yeah,
but
you are.
You clearly are just such a huge leader and just amazing. I love you. So tell me, okay, why do you call me? Okay, I'm gonna tell you what's so crazy about you calling me fairy godmother. Yeah. But you tell me why you said that.
It was our conversation in 2017, right? Like I said, I was tired as hell of those no's. And I'm like, let me apply for this thing. I don't even know who sent me the pitch competition. I was like, I guess I can apply. All right, but I had already got denied from 3 pitch competitions before that. And then I actually pitched somewhere too, and it was a no. And I'm just like, that was dumb. So it was the conversation you had with me, it was like when Cinderella was getting ready and you came with the pumpkin with the chariot. That's how I felt, right? It was just like sprinkling that dust. And like, when I say breathing life into me, I was exhausted, right? I didn't even know exhausted at that time. I'm exhausted now, but it was, that conversation just was like, yeah, the fairy godmother that gets you ready for the big ball and make sure whether you get a prince or not, that you come home with something. And that's you.
You know what's so interesting about that? Maybe in the last few years, I think we did this on the pandemic. A woman who used to work for Disney, and she worked on the Princess Task Force, which people may not have known. But the Princess Task Force was created so that it wouldn't have to continue that like all the princesses were like after Prince, after Prince. right? Like everything was centered around a man. Like, so they shifted that, and that's where you get your Elsa and your Brave and those princes that came after. And so I met her on Clubhouse, actually. And I went to her and I'm like, I want to really put together some things for my brand. I really want to like lay my brand out, like really get a full understanding of it. So me and her went through weeks of interviews. She interviewed me, asked me, different questions. I sent her voice notes, like went through a long, decent sized interview process. And when she came back, she came back with the character, the fairy godmother. And she said, there's a new kind of Cinderella that is looking for a new kind of leader. And it's the moment where Cinderella goes out to the rock and she's crying on the rock. And she finds really the fairy godmother shows up, but the fairy godmother doesn't give Cinderella magic. She pulls it out of her.
That's how I felt.
And in that moment, you realize that you are the magic, that the magic is you.
Yes.
Right? And I'm like, oh my God. When we had this call with her, I brought a bunch of like people who were contractors and a bunch of people that were working with me at the time, because I knew we were about to get institutional knowledge. And I think that's one of the things that, as I'm listening to you navigate, this is what you kind of glean. You like, oh, this is institutional knowledge. This is not just a brand person who like brand and does marketing, right? Like you work for this huge institution called Disney, who's embedded in literally every part of our lives. And you bringing that knowledge to my brand. And I wanted the Black and brown people I was working with at that time to hear that knowledge be shared. And it was such an interesting moment for me that I was a little bit cringing inside because I ain't really listened to a person talk about me that way. And she really did an awesome job, like pulling it all out. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is right. Like this is exactly it. And so now when we do like, when we recruit people to interview for my show, or like when we, for the Sirius XM show, or we think about like how to serve. So my brand manager also produces the Sirius XM show. We look at what is their Cinderella story and where are they in their Cinderella journey? Are they crying on the rock? Have they gotten in the chariot? Have they ran away from the ball and left the slipper somewhere? Which means they're sort of like, oh, this thing is never going to happen to me, and they get found. Like, where are these different Cinderellas and what they look for and what they look like? And so when I heard you say that one time in the dive, I was like, oh my God, that's so crazy. She predicted that before we even got to it. She saw that before anybody else can see it. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm a little clairvoyant. That's what I'm like, I see you. And do you own that now? Like, have you owned it yet? I know you're asking me questions, but I'm asking you because do you own it?
Do I own it?
And if not, when you going to own it?
Oh, okay. You're challenging me. Okay?
I am.
You're challenging me. I wouldn't say I don't know that I own it probably as much as I should. And when I would say
today,
I'm evolving into it. I'm in a place, interestingly enough, where they have an offline conversation, but I'm in a place about, really, really, really recognizing who I am. And I'm a creator builder. Like, I'm the person that likes to create, build things. I like to build up other people. Like, it's just a thing. It makes me happy. It releases my spirit. And it's just who I am. And like, I don't always know what to do with that. And I think that like, I've also had some times where like, I may have wanted to help people that wasn't ready to get help. They weren't on the rock crying. Yeah. You know what I mean? They weren't even ready to get into the chariot. They think they are. They think that they more the stepsisters than the Cinderellas. And
or the Wicked Witch, which is the whole
story. Okay, see, I wasn't gonna, but
yeah. I got you. That's what I understand.
And so, but in terms of the owning it, I want to work through where to own it and be, I don't even know. Anyway, because everything I'm saying right now, I'm also hearing like, nah, girl, don't even say that. Because my thought was like, this idea of humility right, is like stupid, honestly. And some, it's like
it gets ingrained in us, and
in the way that it's not progressive, in a way that does not push you forward, in a way that does not fuel you. You can be empathetic, you can be kind, you can be cool, but you can also have diplomacy, and you can be radical. I think all those things can exist in one body, and they don't have to be like, oh, I'm so humble.
Yeah.
And
people,
like, no.
Yeah. That's why I asked you that question. I'm still waiting on the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. You give it to me.
I know. I do. So you got me. When am I gonna own it? I am actively working on it this year.
Okay.
I am in a place where I own what I've created. Good. I own that I did that. You know what I mean?
That's a good first step.
We did that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You're part of the mural. We are on. That is probably the largest, probably the only mural.
That shit's still crazy.
Of 5 Black women business owners, probably in this area anywhere.
I agree.
So current alive Black women business owners. You know what I mean? Like the 2 murals that we did in DC are probably, and it's huge. So I'm like, no, I did that. I did that. I got one of the biggest companies on the planet to say yes to that, right? So, I own that, like, we're doing things at Black Girl Ventures. I own that I created something that is taking care of my family and other people's families, and it's doing exactly what I built it to do. I own that, my impact in anybody's partnership is real, right? Like, I just came back from CES, and I own that, like, watching the programming we're doing, our panel is super packed every time. You know what? I will tell you what makes me own it, though. What makes me own it is the crews. Like, when the back end people go, oh my God, I'm so glad to see you. We love your panel. And because they sit all the panels all day. They bored as heck. You know what I mean? Yeah. So when they say that, I'm like, this is for real. You know what I mean? When, like, even the production team here, when they come, we love working with y'all. I'm like, I like working with y'all too.
Right.
Like,
it fits naturally.
That's when I'm like, I think people's engagement on every level is so important. Whether you the person cleaning the bathroom, you the person fixing the sound, you the person, and like every part of that, the human experience for me is such a big thing. So I am really actively working on owning it. I don't know who will I be when I own it?
I'm waiting to find out too. Yeah, that's what I'm like, just think of everything you just said. So when you actually own it, there's a lot more coming.
Okay, well, I'm gonna toss it back at you.
I agree. And I don't own it yet either. That's why I gotta ask you first. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think like I said, we've been taught at just Black women period, we gotta be humble, right? And then that humble shit gets us nowhere. And it's like you start off, I mean, I'm not saying like, you're cocky or I'm cocky, but like if we don't promote ourselves and talk our own stuff, like nobody else is going to do it. Yeah, and I think that's like the only detriment I've ever done with B-360 is not initially owning that this is that shit, right? This is that moment that I am a Black woman from Baltimore for TED Talk and the first Black woman from Baltimore for TED Talk. That's crazy, right? I still haven't given myself all the credit I'm supposed to, and I'm still struggling with that too. It's like when, right? Because it's like we go through these extreme highs and these extreme lows. So we can be on the top of the world getting a $3 million check, and then next month I'm getting backlash from Republicans and haters,
and that's why it's hard to own it, because you never know when somebody's not gonna like it. But you know what? But as you were talking about that, because one, allow me to say you're killing it. Okay,
thanks. Like, I'm working on receiving those things.
You were killing it. I mean, I have, and like I've watched you do it, right? So it ain't even me. I'm not even gassing you up. I'm like, no, literally, this has been amazing to watch your journey. I mean, I'm cheering, I'm screaming when I see the announcement. Like, I saw the $5 million announcement. I'm like, yes. So, you work with the NBA now? Okay, I saw that.
Never been to a game in my life until recently, Like, that was a job. So this is a new experience. That's cool. Yeah. Yeah, that's how I be. Huh. Okay, we here.
Right.
Let me sit here. All right. Yeah.
The $5 million, was that which org did that come from?
So federal fund is 3. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
that's 3. Okay.
Yep, 3. Yep. And that was again, like our peers and our colleagues have never done it before. Right. That's me. I'm can be the first, I'm not gonna be the last. So now that I got into that space for the senators, I think it's my job to help people also know it's possible, but also show them how to do it. When I say it was the easiest application I ever did in my life.
Really?
Yes. It was
federal funding.
Yes.
And I think the opposite. Do you have to go through SAM and all that?
Eventually, but
at first you had to do something different.
Yeah, okay. The very beginning is they have their own appropriations, like their own like line items that they care about. So having those conversations with senators and their employees who already got B-360, that's how I knew we had already done it right. I just need to own it more. Right, having a conversation with a senator that is a white man that understands B-360 and vouched for us and took us through the legal process to get approved through Congress. So it's written to a law that he believes in B-360. That's crazy. That's crazy to me.
Well, I just want to say, if it's helpful in your path to owning that, you're not hard to understand.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's not hard to understand. When you care about community, when you care about the people you call your constituents, the people who vote for you, this ain't hard to understand. It's actually a no-brainer.
When you want to.
That's right.
Yes, I think on this path, I've not been afraid. If people don't get it, okay. I'm not explaining this anymore because people will get it, like you. And then when we were in Martha's Vineyard, right, that's a good example of I had never heard of Dawn and Liz Thompson either. And Liz is an engineer too, and I should have learned about her growing up. Dawn is the first Black male CEO of McDonald's. They awarded us $1 million for advancing Black education, not just education, not people of color education, Black education. And that's something I don't have to change my tone or change how we speak about our work. The people that get it will, and the people that want to get it will join us in this journey, and it'll be stuff I never thought about. $1 million? I know. I'll say, y'all want to do what? And again, that was also a very easy process.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't me having to keep proving myself and talking about, no, straight to the point. And then even going to Martha's Vineyard when I seen you, I was like, no, we're going to shout out Omi Bell back there, Black Girl Ventures, right? Because it was the right people in the room that needed to also learn. We are very diverse Black people. And we need to keep it that way. And even the fact they invited me to be on that panel with her, that's what she wanted. So that's me. It's like now I've met more views, and I appreciate that because that's not always the case. Some people can be comfortable being the only one, and I knew that you weren't. And I know that's why you created Black Girl Ventures too, right? And in along this journey, I've been able to meet more Black women with those same values, and me becoming one of those Black women too, right? I don't like being the only one of me. But I think it's just the people that get it will, and if you don't, oh well.
That's right. And I mean, what you kind of realize is that it's the people's understanding that's the problem, not the content.
Exactly.
And then I think that I'm also looking at this we're building the next philanthropists.
Yeah.
Right? So there's going to be Black women that come out of this, Black and brown women that come out of this, Black men that come out of this. That will be the philanthropists that turn around and grant to some other person that's also coming out of the community. It's eventually it becomes a sort of self-fulfilling thing, within the community, just community fulfilling for each other, which is why the whole vote with your dollars part is important, right? Or the whole give the community a voice to vote. So no, 100%. Okay, the question is, where are you now? Okay, now where are you? It could be multiple. It could be spiritual, physical. It could be. Oh wait, you know what? Before I ask that, I do have a question.
You seem like, what's the question? It's no, I'm listening.
How are you taking care of yourself?
Because see how I knew you was gonna ask me that.
Because I heard you say what you said about your mom, and it really sparked for me. How are you making sure that you?
A lot of no's, a lot of boundaries, a lot of discernment. Yes, right now I'm on a fake sabbatical. I have not.
Did you say fake sabbatical?
I put that away message on December 15th. I don't come back till maybe February if I choose. So strong boundaries. Sometimes I have to pivot. A lot of no's. Everything is not for me. Right? I don't need to Me and Takia were left mothers too. You know, she had to bring my shoes here because she never sees me. You know, I'm really big on I don't need to be everywhere. I don't need to always be seen or heard from. I need to be able to be quiet, be still, and do my work, or not do my work. So I just came back from Cancun also. This year I'll be implementing a lot more like mini vacations throughout the year because burnout is a real thing. I'm a high functioning burnout. So people don't know when I'm not present, which was a lot of 2023, just because I was really tired. You know, it's been like a marathon, but it has a lot of long legs. And that's why I've been feeling just too much weight, too much pressure, too much everything. Doctor's visits, getting blood work.
That part. Just simply that.
Yeah, like just making time to just be a regular person. Yeah. Right. Not having to think about sales, not having to just be everything to everybody. And I feel good about that. So I mean, a lot of no's and a lot of boundaries. And then discernment for me has been I'm naturally a giver, I'm naturally an empath, and I have to turn some of that off sometimes, right? 2023, I spent a lot of time giving light, right? Pouring into people that didn't pour into me or did not want to because they had never received that type before. So I also had to make sure, again, this Black woman trope of being a superhuman, letting that shit go. It's not my responsibility to save people, right? It's not my responsibility to take care of everybody. I don't even have biological children. So I don't need to always feel like I'm somebody's mother. I don't always have to be, you know, assertive and strong Brittany. I should be able to be angry. I should be able to be sad, you know, be happy when I want to, smile when I want to or not, because I don't like smiling either. And just take time to just be a regular girl.
I think everything you just said is actually the definition of owning it. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like I think that like, you're like, I don't need to be everywhere. I'm gonna go where I'm going. I'm not going where I'm not going. I'm not for everybody, but I'm for a lot of people. And I think that's what people need to add to that. I'm not for everybody. People go, I'm not for everybody. No. I'm not for everybody, but I'm for a lot of people.
Yeah, I want to be loved, not liked.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that is owning it. I love that.
I got a little bit more room, but I'm hearing you.
I mean, you could brag on it in owning it. Sure. But being able to set those boundaries, I think, is key. Okay, so where are you now? However you define that, whatever comes to mind first, when I say, where are you now?
Well, here's you. But that's a good question. I don't know. And I like that. I've never in my life not been responsible. That is a different me. That's crazy. It's like right now we have an interim chief of staff, and I feel great about that. So where I'm at is feeling good about not being responsible for everything and everybody, and nervous about it, but embracing it. And I think I'm just excited for whatever's next, but prepared too. Yeah, I'm very much a Gemini, so that's like, you know, so I can help you with right now. I'm like, I'm all of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm ready for whatever, but also ready to do not a lot.
Well, I am so super proud of you. And just honored to thank you, and just honored to be a part of the journey. So thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Always, Godmother.